Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravan Pacharini. Nirveshesha Sunyavari Paschatya Desatarini. Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gunatisaye Namaha. Ananda Lidamaya Vigrahaya. Himavya Divacha Krishnaraya. Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. So, the text again, we read the English translation. Thereupon, when all the good signs of the zodiac gradually evolved, the heir apparent of Pandu, who would be exactly like him in prowess, took birth. So, the heir apparent is Maharaj Parikshit. When he was born, there was controversy around his birth because there was already an enemy the enemy of the Pandu, of the Pandavas, trying to kill him. And Krishna had to come in. Krishna had to save him. As a matter of fact, Krishna gave him a new body because the old body was in fact destroyed by the weapon, Brahmastra. So all of that happened. And now there is focus on the signs of the zodiac. Zodiac, some of us may be very well attuned to it, and many of us, I'm sure the majority, are not so well attuned to zodiac signs, and that includes me. I'm in the category not so well attuned to it. Yet you learn all kinds of things from Srimad Bhagavatam. So clearly, Srila Prabhupada is saying astronomical calculations of the influence of the stars are not things that people assume, but they're factual. He says it's confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. The fact of the matter is that the heavenly bodies are also bodies that are alive. Just like if we're going to have a particular meeting or a particular function of the temple or a particular place that is decided on that we're going to meet, that all the people involved in that will go to that place and may take seats in different places, some of them in front, some of them on the side, some of them doing different things to get the activity to go on. The stars are also living entities. Galaxies are living entities. So there's a collection of souls like that. Just like in our bodies, there's also a collection of souls. We may think that the super soul and the individual soul is in the heart, yes. But then there are other living entities. When we breathe in germs. Those don't go to the heart unless there's a situation that is caused by sickness. But they will go to the lungs, they will go to certain areas of the body. Sometimes some of them wind up in the stomach. When we eat, when we open our mouths, the air goes in, the bugs come in. Very, very, very small, undetectable by our eyes. But they are living entities who also have soul and super soul. Living entities. And so we are also a collection of different parts, different organs, true enough, but then different outside, smaller bodies, physical bodies that also enter us. And they're all part of their makeup. So the stars also gather in a certain way for announcing or the birth of a certain particular personality. And that's what Srila Prabhupada is trying to get across to us. So in the case of Maharaj Parikshit's birth, there were good signs. People can meet for regular, bad things, criminals can assemble to do something bad, and good people can assemble to do something that's also good. So in that same kind of analogy, the stars arrange themselves, the stars gather in a certain way to show, or the type of, not just the stars gathering, but the type of stars too, the particular stars that came. In a little bit of astrology, some stars, when they are influencing a person, some challenges may be there, and then some stars, when they influence a person, a lot of loving activities are there too. That happen. So in the case of Maharaj Pariksit, he was to continue well-trained. He was going to be well-trained, and he would in fact take over when the Pandavas retire. So it had to be a good, Krishna wanted that, by the way. So it had to be a very, very good soul being invited down. And Krishna even protected him when, right after the war, he was born, and there was an issue with somebody trying to kill him, Ashwatam. So here Papa says in the purport, astronomical calculations, stellar influences are factual because these bodies can in fact assemble in a certain way to show auspiciousness. It also is true for every living being. When they are born, the stars are a certain constellation, a certain arrangement, and that the particular stars or the arrangement of it may very well affect, the person's life, how it's supposed to unfold. And so towards the end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about the kind of samskara or ritual to perform in order that a good soul may come, good soul that will be open to Krishna consciousness. That's a good soul. That's our definition of a good soul. That's open to Krishna consciousness. Be born through us or through the parents who are now at the age, young enough to have, old, but young enough to have children. So, Srila Prabhupada says, as stated in the Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 3, text 9, every action of life produces another reaction, which is binding upon us. And only those of us who are acting on behalf of Krishna, as Vishnu, we're not bound by reactions. Yagya is another name for the Lord. The Lord, the benefactor of all sacrifices and austerities. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam savalokamahisharam shuridam savabhutanam jaktamam shantim vichati. To those who understand that Krishna is the benefactor of all of sacrifices and austerities, who is the leader and the owner of all of the planets, material and spiritual, and also the leader of the demigods, Savaloka Maheshwaram, Sridham Savabhutan, the well-wisher of all the friends. I mean, well-wisher of everybody, every living entity, well-wisher and friend of every living entity. That person attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So that understanding that when we go through sacrifice or austerities, we should have Krishna as the main aim that we're doing this for. We're doing it for the Lord. So even in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the consciousness is we're doing it because the Lord will like us doing that. Would like us doing it, and therefore we do it. And the meaning is also there. Dear Radha, dear Krishna, energy of the Lord, right? Hara, please engage me in devotional service to you. So that after chanting it so many repeatedly, then we also involve ourselves in devotional service. Then we are backing our mantra chanting with the proper activity. So that's very important that we chant with that understanding and also follow through what we need to be doing. So, Srila Prabhupada says, well, in first it says Bhagavad-Gita 3.9. So let's go to Bhagavad-Gita 3.9. Bhagavad-Gita 3.9 says, Yagyatar karma nunyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tad artam karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. The translation is, work done as sacrifice for Vishnu has to perform. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, Arjuna, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, for Vishnu's satisfaction. And in that way, you will always remain free from bondage. So when we do work, we should do it in terms of Bhakti Yoga or Karma Yoga. And the description is this. Bhakti Yoga is Krishna consciousness activities prescribed that we do, perform, and Karma Yoga is our own work, prescribed activities, our own jobs, mostly employment, especially all businesses, define that now in two categories. People sometimes do businesses because they want to satisfy their senses, and others do, or work, same thing, get a salary to satisfy, buy things that you like, and don't consider the Lord. But Karma Yoga, when the devotee takes part of what they've earned from the business or from being an employee and gives it to Krishna. Krishna conscious activities, Krishna conscious projects, that is called Karma Yoga. When we do that, then between that and also the work that we normally do in devotion service then we'll remain free from bondage. So Srila Prabhupada says, one has to work for the simple maintenance of body. And since that's there, so the prescribed duties for a particular social position and quality are made such that that purpose can be fulfilled. Yagya brings up Yagya again. Yagya means Lord Vishnu or sacrificial performances. So all sacrificial performances are also meant for the Lord's satisfaction, satisfying Lord Vishnu. Yagyo by Vishnu. The same purpose is served when one performs prescribed yagyas or sacrifices or directly serves Lord Vishnu. Krishna consciousness is therefore performance of yagya as is prescribed in this verse. So Krishna consciousness is itself a yagya. Srila Prabhupada has said that so many times. It is like tapasya, it is like austerity. Why? Because having to stop a certain time and meditate and chant Hare Krishna for a certain period of time, only some people who want to do that would do that. The rest of the people are just trying to see, the rest of the world, majority, are trying to see what they can take out of the world and enjoy themselves. They don't stop to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, asking to serve the Lord the way the definition is in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Then there are other things too, like staying away from meat eating, and staying away from intoxication, and staying away from gambling, and so many things that non-devotees involve themselves in. So all of these being removed from our lives puts us in a different mindset. But compared to non-devotees, we are actually going through an austerity. And Srila Prabhupada, tapasya means austerity. Srila Prabhupada describes that, so that devotees have that understanding but there is benefit from doing that, because this is how you prepare yourself mentally to get to the point where the chanting will have an effect, and then you will also have an opportunity to go back to Godhead, to get out of this samsara, the place of repeated birth and death, the material world that we're in. So there's advantage to going through this tapasya, this life that we live. It will actually give more peace of mind when you think about it. The four regulated principles, even if we talk about gambling, Just one of them, as an example. Gambling, there's a lure. People gamble because they have a chance. As soon as you get involved in the gambling process or buy a lottery ticket or something, the first in the mind tells them, yeah, now you are in the group of people who at the time that this lottery, the way it's played and the results are announced, you are one of those that could win. And this is the lure. That is the push, what drags people into gambling. But the gambling business, or even if it's done by the state, because the state has its own also, they already know, because in statistics it's set up that definitely the person or the business or the state that's doing the gambling is going to get the majority of the money, whether someone wins or not, because the chances of the person winning is so slim. So out of 100%, very, very, very slim. So 99.9999% of the money will come to the business or the state. If it's a state lottery, they'll get the money. So the more people play for gamble, the happier the business is, because they know that only few people will walk out with only part of the immense profit that they will make. And so if we stay away from gambling, then we stay away from the situation where we could lose money over a period of time playing. We know some of the statistics for especially for the state lottery. The one that has 36 numbers, and then this has been a long time, I don't know whether they still do it that way, but sometime back, years back, decades back, I know that they were in state lottery, and they do it once a week, and 36 numbers, and 6 numbers are chosen. And if you have all the 6 numbers, then you win $1 million. Well, statistically, the chances of anybody that plays winning that, it's called combination math, combination and permutation math. 1 in 1.9 million. So it's 1.91 million. So the state has 1.91 million chance of taking your money, and you have 1 out of the 1.9. So divide 1 by 1.9 million, 1.19 and 5 zeros. You divide 1 by that number, you see where the calculator will tell you 0.000, maybe you have 5 zeros before you get another number. So your effect is so slim. So actually, it seems like we're going through tapasya or austerity dealing with these regulated principles. But what it's doing is it's giving us peace of mind, because we won't lose our money like that. And that's only gambling. There's meat eating and staying away from that, because the body is tuned to actually vegetarian. We can go into that, but I won't, not at this point. But, and then staying away from illicit sex. Staying away from illicit sex also means staying away from sexually transmitted diseases. If you stay away from that, you stay away from issues like that, or unwanted pregnancy and what comes, with that. So yes, that's all in a sense based on what non-devotees are doing. It's like sacrifice, but we're doing it in order to have our consciousness to the point where when we serve not in the mode of passion or in the mode of ignorance, but we serve in the mode of goodness. A devotee has to act in the mode of goodness, and from there, the mind is clearer, and the heart also opens up more to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees, and the spiritual master especially. So, Srila Prabhupada also mentions the word Jayanti. The most auspicious constellation of stars takes place during the appearance of the Lord in this material world. The most auspicious constellation of stars takes place. Again, going back to the definition of the stars themselves being living entities, the Lord is going to appear. When we understand it that way, that the stars themselves are living entities, then why not? The best arrangement would be for the appearance of the Lord, and that's called Jayanti. Birthday ceremony of the Lord called Jayanti. Sometimes in our Krishna consciousness, a date comes what we call Gita Jayanti, the birth of the Gita coming, the Lord speaking the Bhagavad-Gita. But everything about the Lord is also the Lord, because the Lord is absolute. We cannot wrap our minds behind something being that thing, something the person owns or does being that particular personality. Only the Lord is in the absolute platform. And in the absolute platform, it's not like material that we own things or we have things. The things about Krishna is also Krishna. Therefore, the sacred statements made in the Bhagavad-Gita are about Krishna, and therefore they are Krishna. In that sense, Krishna coming by Krishna consciousness, which is what's in the Bhagavad-Gita. And so that birth is like Krishna coming. So the word Jayanti is used for that too. Bhagavad-Gita, the song of God, like that. So when we want, coming down to us, if we want a good arrangement of stars, we're born already, but for children coming through us, then there is a particular purificatory process. It's called Garbhadhan Sanskara that has to be performed for begetting children. And usually you perform that by husband and wife before the seeding process for the wife to get pregnant. And that samskara would invite a soul that's of a high quality, who is open to Krishna consciousness right from birth. We ourselves also have to make sure that we are around or make sure that we also provide things in Krishna consciousness so that the baby in the womb can hear about Krishna before they're even born. That's on us. Garbhadhan Sanskara, I know in my situation, well, in our situation, my wife and myself, that particular Sanskara was performed when we were in Maryland, because there was a devotee who knew how to perform it. And for 3 couples, actually, we performed, we were one of the 3 couples. It was performed that day. Srila Prabhupada, by his mercy, has said to us that if the Garbhadhan Sanskara is not able to be performed for a couple, then before they relate sexually for the woman to be pregnant, they should, both husband and wife, should individually chant 50 of rounds, japa. Take some time, but the day off that we're going to try for a child, you chant 50 rounds. And that would, by, again, his mercy, be accepted as if having performed the Garbhadhan Samskara. So again, this is another mercy from a spiritual master that's there. The now devotees don't have to find someone who knows how to perform that particular ritual, but then the husband and wife chant 50 rounds, and that would help in the consciousness and put the devotees, husband and wife, in not only goodness type consciousness, but also transcendental consciousness, since the holy name itself is transcendental. Srila Prabhupada says there will be peace and prosperity in the world due to good and sane population only. And then there's hell and disturbance because of unwanted, insane population addicted to this sex indulgence. So there will be peace and prosperity if souls are coming through the Garbhadhan Sanskara performance first, or as Srila Prabhupada is given the mercy, chanting of 50 rounds of japa by the couple. Then people who are Krishna conscious will then take birth, and in that way, the grihastas, the couples who are married, will help bring good souls onto this particular planet, which needs it badly because now so much is happening from the demonic side, and it's getting worse, slowly getting worse. So Srila Prabhupada says there's hell and disturbance only because of unwanted, insane population addicted to sex indulgence. This was also an issue that Arjuna was concerned about in the Battle of Kurukshetra when Krishna was reading, I mean, not reading, but explaining the Bhagavad-Gita to him, to Arjuna. So in Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 1, text 40, Adama Bivavat Krishna Pradushanti Kulastriya Srishtu Dushtestu Vasneya Jayate Vana Shankara. This is Arjuna speaking to Krishna. He said that when irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family will become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, to Krishna, a descendant of Vishnu, comes unwanted progeny. So when irreligion is prominent in the family, when religion is prominent around society, then the women give themselves to men who are not married to them, become pregnant from them, don't even want the children. Sometimes they perform abortions, or that they invite the child somehow gets born, but the child has been born in a very, very toxic environment, has heard all kinds of swear words and so on by the people around when they were in the womb. So then they, they just imbibed that kind of mode of passion or mode of ignorance mentality. And these are unwanted children. They don't help to uplift society. So, Srila Prabhupada in the purport for chapter 1, text 40 of Bhagavad-Gita, he says, good population in human society is the basic principle for peace, prosperity, and spiritual progress in life. Good population. Varnashram was designed for people to be gradually progressing into at least very, very good-minded people in the mode of goodness, tolerant, nice people who get along well in society. Not everybody's going to be Krishna conscious, but at least they should be acting not in a passionate stage like the way it is now, or ignorant stage, doing harm to each other. All of that can go when more of the population progeny, people who are coming to the world through the governance and Sanskara process or the chanting of the 50 rounds of japa, more come. And this is on the society members of the Krishna Conscious Society to make that happen. And then they would be more prone to what we're doing, the chanting the rounds, the obeying the regulated principles, and then we get a chance to go back to Godhead. And as far as that's concerned, there was an offering to Srila Prabhupada, which is Srila Prabhupada's offering. That was Srila Prabhupada's birth was we celebrated this past Saturday. And so there's one disciple of Srila Prabhupada. His name is Amiyatma Das. His wife has already died and left the body, gone. But there was a situation where he described involving the passing of his wife. That is very instructive to us. So I'm going to read it exactly how he offered his homage to Srila Prabhupada. He said, it has been 46 long years since I saw you in person in 1976. You never made it back to Los Angeles in 1977, and I was not able to come to India to see you again. This is Amiyatma Prabhu himself talking. For 41 of those 46 years, I had a friend, a partner, my wife, who also left this world this year, and in an auspicious way. Then he describes the situation. She was sick. She had kidney disease. She had congestive heart failure due to high blood pressure. And in the last month, she knew she would be leaving soon. In her last days, she hadn't slept for a day and a half, 36 hours. And then she fell asleep. And basically the family left her alone. But after 18 hours, he said he tapped his wife on the shoulder and she immediately woke up. But when she woke up, she says, Radha, 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 the eternal consort of Krishna. It's calling Radha's name. And he said he had never heard her call out to Radha like that before. He said, she again said, Radha, Radha. And then she told, excuse me, she told me to start chanting. And this man is describing that he put on a recording of Srila Prabhupada's chanting, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and their son was home also. So he also came, and with the mantra, Srila Prabhupada's mantra, chanting, the recording of it, they also joined in, the father and the son, or to say the husband of this Mataji and their son. They were chanting. Then she was listening and she asked for her Jagannath deity. She had a Jagannath deity, and husband went and got it in place next to her, put fresh tilak on the forehead, placed a tulsi leaf in the mouth, and he said she left this world very peacefully, no struggle. She just stopped breathing. That's all. And that is a very, 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 very auspicious way to leave. Now, there's more. Krishna was there in the form of his holy name. If we talked about Krishna is absolute, so his holy name is also Krishna. So it was being chanted not just by a husband and son, but, and this is an offering to Srila Prabhupada, so he's saying, but by you, Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee of Radha and Krishna, because they put a recording of Srila Prabhupada chanting. What was most auspicious, in my view, was that when I woke her up and she called out for Radha and Radha, I knew right then that she was already on her way back home, that is back to Godhead. And my waking her up brought her back here just long enough so she could depart in the most auspicious way. Then a week after she left, she appeared in my dream. This is the husband talking, where she gave me a message and asked that I should tell others. And this is the reason I'm reading this, so that we all will hear about it. The message she wanted to tell me is this. First, she was a simple devotee. She never held any position. She was not in charge of any projects. Yet she wanted not just me, but others to know that she is being taken back home, back to Godhead. She had been successful. What she wanted me to tell everyone was that the program that you taught us, Srila Prabhupada, works. And this is what I'd like all of us to hear, including my own self. All we have to do is follow the simple program that you so kindly given us. Just chant our 16 rounds, read your books, and render service to Krishna in the form of his deity. To render service to you, Srila Prabhupada's Krishna's pure devotee. So we chant our rounds, read Srila Prabhupada's books, which means you can hear the lecture also. It's all part of the process. And render service to Krishna, the deity form, as you can render home, you can render in the temple, especially the temple, because you get to associate with the devotees also. Then he says, we don't have to become a big important devotee. We don't have to be in charge of this or that, or have followers, or be famous. If that becomes our service to you and Krishna, then fine. We carry it out in the same as we clean the temple floor or wash Krishna's pots, which means we carry out a position, if we have a position of authority, or we are facilitating something in a particular project, we should do it, even if we become famous for that, we should do it just like a person that's sweeping the temple floor or washing the pots in the kitchen. Don't be attached to it. Basically, do it in a humble way. We do whatever service Krishna and we're allowed to do for Krishna, or made to do for Krishna, or we do for Krishna ourselves, and we should do it in a humble and devotional mood. And that is the most important part, the devotional mood. even if we're not able to render physical service, our mood must be always be of devotion to Krishna. So he came back in the dream of her husband to let him know, and he said, tell everybody, just chant your 16 rounds daily, read the books, render service to Krishna in the form of his deity. Now, when you read the books, you will realize that you should stay away from being offensive. Aparad will stop everything, aparad's offenses. So we should be very careful how we deal with devotees. And in general, just speak very nicely and mildly. So that also very much is part of a devotee life. You have to make sure you don't commit offenses like that. But basically, he's saying the process works. Why? Because that's what she did. And now she's going back to Godhead. And then she comes in a dream a week later to tell her husband that this is what I did, and this is clear now to me. So the program is simple. Follow it. So her point was, don't doubt Srila Prabhupada. That if we obey the regular principles, chant our rounds, read the books, and offer service to the deity and to the spiritual master, we will be allowed back this lifetime after we leave the body. So Maharaj Pariksit is coming to lead in an exemplary way, just like his grandfather, Maharaj Yudhisthira, ruled very nicely after the Kurukshetra war. And the constellations, even the stars, proved that this was a very important soul, and the Lord himself saved him from the womb, actually, from being killed in the womb. All of that tells us that we are in good hands. And now with this Amyatma Mataji's, Amyatma's wife, Mataji's message to us, that she's going back to Godhead because she did it very simply following Srila Prabhupada's program. If we do the same thing, we are also literally guaranteed going back. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful class, and especially that the topic of auspiciousness and taking to the process. That was really, really powerful. Thank you so much. Would like to ask devotees if any questions, any comments, any reflections, realizations, please do post it in the you can either post it on the chat, or you can just jump right in and ask your question. I would like to ask a question while others are thinking, and I think this has been addressed, but if you could address it again. Here, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about auspiciousness, the constellation, the stars, the alignments, and which is pretty much similar, pretty much aligned with astrology. And, but this is what I'm thinking. And, if you could shed some light on it. Here, Srila Prabhupada start speaking, I think about, the auspiciousness of the astrology for appearances and disappearances. And sometimes as devotees, we get caught up in the astrology of this, astrology of charts, astrology of placing this, placing of that. And we've also heard Srila Prabhupada saying that astrology, is secondary. And I think this was also addressed in Chandamali Swami's class one time in Reading, for those who are not there, how much importance has astrology in Krishna consciousness, when we know that when we clap our hands before the Lord, everything changes. If you could just shed some light on how important does it play in our Krishna consciousness, or it's, or where does it play and not play, if I'm making my point here.
Yeah. What we have today, the arrangement of the constellation before Maharaj Pariksit was born, and even what Srila Prabhupada is talking about, that when Krishna is getting ready to come, then the stars arrangement is also extremely favorable. In fact, the best arrangement is when Krishna himself is coming to the earth or to the material world in general. So the fact that there are living entities in the stellar constellation, the living entities who assemble in that way, or patterns, shows that astrology is in fact a science, and Srila Prabhupada says it is not something that we should say, okay, well, people have abused it, therefore it's no good. It's a particular arrangement. Now, having said that, though, it's important why we read Amyatma Prabhu's wife's information that he wanted to send us. Whatever we know about astrology, or whatever we're told about astrology, it does not ever even compare, or much less go over or trump the fact that the program given by Srila Prabhupada will take us back to Godhead. Ultimately, what we want to do is get out of the material world. If you understand anything at all, material world is the place, Srila Prabhupada says, for no gentleman or lady. It is a place of suffering. All of them, even the one that's most materially opulent, all the way up to the one that has most suffering in it, Brahmaloka to Patalaloka, they are all places of suffering. So astrology, some people may put some effort into it and say, well, I want to do this, I want to do this. What does astrology say about this? The important thing is, when we take the process of Bhakti Yoga seriously, we are protected and we're guided by Krishna on anyway. He even says that whatever we lack, he'll provide whatever we, what he carry. For those of us, anyone, not those of us, because it's not a special group. This is Krishna consciousness is open to everyone. Anyone that comes to Krishna consciousness and puts their heart into the process and does it, the chanting, the hearing, the praying, all of the 9 different processes, as many as they can do, especially including the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Krishna is there for them. And so because Krishna is there for them, astrology may be a science that's not to be said or put down. And you don't put it down because of stellar arrangements. That, in fact, does happen. But do we need it so much in our lives? The answer is no. If Krishna says that I will protect you, I mean, if Krishna protects, who can do anything to you? Does the stars need to be in a certain way for Krishna to say, okay, the stars are this way, therefore I'm going to protect? He never said it like that. He just said, you will get protection if you stick to me being the one that you worship. That's it. He never brought anything about the stars. So that's that. It is true. It's true. Like somebody knows something of math or calculus very well, and somebody doesn't. But that person that doesn't know is chanting Hare Krishna. If you don't know calculus, does that mean he's not going back to Godhead? Of course he's going to go back to Godhead. It doesn't depend on the other sciences that's there. And that's why, I mean, Prabhu's wife, I said it simply, follow Srila Prabhupada's process that he's given. It's simple, and you go back to Godhead. So for those who want to find out about astrology, they can, because it exists, just as somebody will find out about maths and some of us and get to know about it. But the focus that a devotee should have is on Srila Prabhupada's program, and that's what gets us out of this jail. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for shedding light on that. I wanted to share something that I was just informed about a couple of weeks ago when Vrinda and Vishaka had their initiation. Manoharini Vrinda and Vajagopi Vishaka, and normally initiations are done in the mornings, not in the afternoons or evenings. And but for both these girls, the diyas was done in the evenings. And I was told that the reason Vritatvija Swami, the spiritual master, didn't care about the auspiciousness of the mornings, evenings, or afternoons is because he said this. One is initiation when it's performed before the spiritual master and before Srila Prabhupada. All the inauspiciousness don't matter because it's before 3 gurus plus Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya, that all the astrology doesn't make any sense because the spiritual master is so much more important and above astrology that he didn't even care that it was happening in the evening. He says we don't, when it comes to initiation. Plus, in another thing that I was informed by the Pandit who did the ceremony was he said that because Yagna is another name for Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, if you have Krishna fire yagya happening whatever time with the 3 spiritual masters and the founder Acharya, all the astrology makes no sense. It's taken up by the spiritual master. So to me, that was even more potent to really understand how important the philosophy is above astrology. Was very, very powerful for me. So I just wanted to share that as he was speaking about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But Srimad Bhagavatam covers practically covers everything. About the nature of it is like that. So Srila Prabhupada doesn't put down astrology, doesn't put down because it does in fact, the lining of the stars is there. But again, Srila Prabhupada didn't come to tell us that do things based on what the stars are telling you. He just said chant Hare Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya said there's no hard and fast rules. So astrology doesn't play that role, and there's no hard and fast rules for chanting the holy name. So you chant the holy name at any time, no matter where the stars are. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And just a quick reminder to devotees that this evening we have our Bhagavad-Gita Circle reading program. So please do join us this evening at 6 o'clock. We are starting, we are in chapter 14. Which is entitled The Three Modes of Material Nature. So please do join us this evening at 6 o'clock for our half-hour Bhagavad-Gita Circle reading. Until then, if there are no questions or comments, thank you for joining us. Vanchakapatibhyascha, Kripasindhavevcha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Have a wonderful day, devotees. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Jai. Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Varshamataji.